So the Indiana Fever in free agency right now have announced the signing of Mo Billings. They have not announced the Ty Harris signing yet, but I'm pretty sure it was her dad posted the video for shooting in front of Amber Cox and Austin Kelly and was constantly talking about Fever. I think she's as good as gone. And then we got Mo Billings officially signed for the Fever. However, I think there's one more big splash. I wouldn't mind if the Fever went just depth. If the Fever were like, look, we need a little bit more depth when it comes to the Fever, we can bring in like a Kennedy Burke, a utility piece, and a Temi who can play the 4 and the 5, so that it's Temi, Billings, and Aaliyah rotating at the 4-5, and then sometimes Dantas, and then obviously the draft pick. Or the Indiana Fever could be making one more splash. So likelihood of Alana Smith going to the Fever isn't there. Is unlikely. It is unlikely. The likelihood of, I'm thinking of like top players. So if you're looking at some of the top free agents that are still there, like these are interesting players. I think Beck Allen is an interesting player. I think Kennedy Burke is an interesting player for the Fever. If Kayla Charles is unrestricted, I think that's really good wing depth. Obviously, the assumption is Sophie's coming back. Temi would be really nice to bring in. Maybe they might be bringing Natasha Howard back in, or they might say the Alana Smith money, or maybe an Emma Messman money, could be based on the Aaliyah contract. And a lot of people are talking about, oh, Aaliyah is going to get the max. There's no guarantee Aaliyah Boston gets the max. If you guys don't know, when it comes down to it with Aaliyah Boston, so she is allowed to sign a max extension. So the Indiana Fever can technically, she can sign a 3-year max. So the Indiana Fever could give Aaliyah Boston a 3-year max contract right now. She's not eligible for Supermax, but they could give her a 3-year max deal as an extension. However, if the Indiana Fever want, they don't have to give her the extension. The Indiana Fever, when it comes to Aaliyah Boston, could say, nah, you're going to play one more year on your rookie deal. You're going to play another year on your rookie deal. And if she ends up playing another year on her rookie deal, it then turns out that she's not going to be on 1.2 million, she's on 550K or something. So when that ends up happening, or if that ends up happening, next year she becomes an RFA. When the cap spikes, so the first things first, the cap will probably spike, which is obviously a big negative. And if the cap spikes, it means that her whatever deal she signed, say if she signed the 3-year max next year, it could be it's going to cost $200K more a year. And if it turns out that she signs a Supermax contract next year, which if she makes an all WNBA team, which I think she will be, she'll be eligible for, and she signs the Supermax next year, then it turns out that the Fever might lose 400 or 500K a year on that. At the same time, when it's all said and done, the is it better short term to make her play on her rookie deal and then give her the Supermax long term versus signing her to the extension now, which is going to be better long term for them? And I think their plan is to sign her to that extension now, which is why I think with Kelsey Mitchell, they haven't signed her to a long-term deal. And Sophie Cunningham, from what I've heard, Sophie is a done deal. Sophie is a done deal. And realistically, you've then got, it just depends on her, how long she's staying for. I think Sophie wants a long-term deal. From what the rumblings are, is that the money is not the issue with Sophie, is the length of the contract. Is that the Indiana Fever basically, they want the Sophie Cunningham, Kelsey Mitchell era to end next year, and they want to kind of build on from there. Which is a really interesting one as well. I do feel like Sophie could be there a bit long term, but it does seem like they want to go very young. And I do think that they're probably a little bit like, okay, we went with vets last year and it didn't work out. Like, whatever about the Commissioner's Cup, but like other than that Commissioner's Cup final, Natasha Howard wasn't that great an asset. Dewana Bonner was a fucking shit show for this team. So maybe we're just gonna go and be like, look, instead of signing 35-year-old vets, we'll sign 28-year-old vets. We're trying to go, what you call it? We're going to go and try to basically just get like older players that can still move, or players with experience and not just 35-year-olds. But yeah, like the Indiana Fever have the cap space, even with Ty Harris. The likelihood is that they're going to have the cap space for one more splash if, and there's a big if they keep Aaliyah on her 4th-year deal. If they keep Aaliyah on her 4th-year deal, like they're going to have probably the cap space to sign one more, I'm not going to say max player, but like an 800K player. And I do feel like as far as 800K players are concerned, that there is, without question, a good 800K player out there. Maybe Alana Smith goes for that. To be honest, I'm looking at the Dallas Wings cap sheet. I've heard Jess Shepard is making a shitload of money. Like, I've heard it was so much money the Lynx couldn't even, like, the Lynx just said, go. We can't match this. Which means they may not have the money for Alana Smith, because the number 1 pick in this year's draft is making $500,000. So, like, they're not cheap either. So they might just about have the money for Alana Smith, but maybe when it comes to getting the Diamond Miller trade might let them get Alana Smith. I do know Kurt Miller followed her on Instagram. It wasn't the other way around. So I do know Dallas are trying to get her, but I also think that Alana Smith is one of those players. On a good team, she looks good. And a shit team, she's going to look shit. So I don't care if Alana Smith goes to Dallas. Go make your money. But she's not going to be good in Dallas. I think the Fever are going to go one of two things. I think they're either going to make one more splash, as in, like, I think Alana might be the one splash, because I think they're happy with Sophie or Lexi starting at the 3. I think they'll be happy. They'll be okay with Monique Billings starting at the 4. I think they'll be content with it. But, like, I think that's the goal coming into the season, is that Monique Billings is going to start at the 4. But I do feel like a lot of people are going to be fully content with that. And to be honest, I think a lot of fans will be content with it just for fit reasons. But at the same time, when it comes down to it, Monique Billings can't be, and Ty Harris can't be your marquee free agency signings. Like, you gotta fill out the depth a little bit more. Like, I understand the draft is a draft. Like, even signing a couple of, I'd love to see a couple of players again, even like bring over Elena Buenavida and make her fight it out. Because my expectations is that they're going to go and sign, because a lot of people are signed to non-guaranteed deals. And you never know what's going to happen in training camp. I still would love an Emma Chekova and Elena Buenavida, maybe even just as a developmental slot player, because I know it's a pay for play, but like, I mean, you got to practice in the States over the summer, which I think for a lot of these players, they might just go like, you know what, yeah, we'll spend a summer practicing with a WNBA team and then come back. Worst case scenario, we make a couple of $100K and our name gets out there, and next year we might make the roster. But yeah, like, I don't know how many players are coming from overseas at this stage, because there's just a lot of players. But yeah, I do think it's going to be a very interesting one to see what ends up happening when it comes down to it for a lot of these teams. How many of the expansion draft players end up actually making the squad? Like, I know Maria Conde signed, but there are a few that I'm not sure are going to even make the squad. Who's going to be free agents then? Our team's going to leave cap space open. Our team's going to, hypothetically, if an Ari type player randomly becomes a free agent, just gets cut from their team. Like, Ari, the reason why Ari got cut from the Sparks is that the Sparks had Julie Allemond waiting to come back, and it was between her and Odyssey Sims. They were like, okay, we have too many point guards, so they got rid of Ari. And if a team is like that, where they have a lot of really good players, They have a lot of really, really good players. Turns out the Fever had no chance of affording Azare $1 million a year. They didn't have that even with the Aaliyah contract. But you still never know. You still never know. Could the Indiana Fever be waiting on the Aaliyah contract to see if they can make one more big deal? Because, by the way, if the Indiana Fever can't make a big splash, you could bring back Temi and you could bring in bring back Temi. You could go and bring in a Kennedy Burke type player. You could bring in Ty Harris. You could bring back Sophie Cunningham. And then you could probably give Aaliyah the max. But if you want to make a splash, it would probably be Aaliyah in a rookie deal, which again is a little bit short-sighted because the extension does mean they save money in the long term.